Good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be back. I'd like to take the first question.
Good morning, Dr. Joe. I'm Willie Kossoff with Safe Management, and I understand you had some health problems recently and had a leave of absence. So just want to know how you're doing.
Good, thank you very much for asking. I did have a little health issue. I've never had one before. I had an infection in my leg. It threw off a blood clot to my right coronary artery. I had a heart attack, and it's all been taken care of. I took a little leave of absence. First time I haven't been working probably since I was about 14 years old. And I was healthy before. This was a very unusual incident. I did take a little bit of time off, but I work from home. It's really nice to be back, and I'm doing fine. And thanks very much for asking that question. The purpose of this press conference was to discuss me coming back to INVU and the health issue, to let everybody become rest assured that I'm fine and things are going forward with our refinancing and our success in our company. I was asked a personal favor because of the fact that I've had a relationship with Donald Trump to answer some questions this morning, and I agreed to do so. I held off for a little bit, did make a comment right before New Hampshire, how I felt, but I'm glad to answer some questions today.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hagan from Sarah Social Media. I know, Dr. Louro, that you have a relationship with Donald Trump. What do you believe his chances are in this election campaign?
Okay, Nicole, thank you. What do I think his chances are? I said this before New Hampshire. I believe this now. I think this process is over. I think Donald Trump will be our candidate for the Republican Party. And I think Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. So I think it's a very easy question for me to answer. I feel strongly about this, and I'll tell you my reasons why with the subsequent questions. But I believe the process is over. I'm sure that Donald Trump and the group that surrounds him, some of the people I know pretty well, his sons, outstanding people, his campaign manager, I have not had the opportunity to meet, but they've done such an outstanding job. So it's just my opinion, and I'd stated today before this Super Tuesday, I believe it's over. Donald Trump has demonstrated he belongs to be the candidate for the Republican Party. I hope that the RNC treats him with the respect that that he deserves, because the people have spoken. Next.
Dr. Joe Hagan with Wealth Colony. It's great to see you back. Why is it that Donald Trump's message resonates so well with the American public? What do you think?
I think that's a great question. I think his message resonates because Donald Trump is obviously he's a billionaire, he's very successful, but he's a very plain speaker. I mean, Donald Trump, when you listen to Donald Trump, you get the message from the macro, not the micro. He brings up topics. I mean, he's already said this several times. Donald Trump, the first day he announced, I believe June 15th, he said that we have a country of laws and rules, and we are letting people, immigrants, come into this country illegally, bringing drugs over, committing crimes, and there's no stopping it. He was the first one to really bring up the immigration issue. I believe it's heartfelt. I believe he wants to build a wall. I believe that he wants to keep people out that are causing problems in the country. I believe, especially when he went to New Hampshire and he saw the pervasive heroin addiction and the problems they're having in a small state, rural state like that. Donald Trump's very serious about this. You listen to the message that he talks about. He talks about winning again. He talks about building a wall, and we're a country of rules, and keeping people out first and becoming secure. Donald Trump was the first one to say, when there's a problem in Syria, when all these refugees were here, Donald Trump was the first one to get on national TV and say, why isn't Jordan and Saudi Arabia and all these other countries taking these refugees in? They're fellow Arabs, whether they're Sunni or Shia or whatever they are, they're fellow Arabs, and they're not taking them in. Why should we? And he said there's going to be a screening process. He was accused of being a racist, anti-Muslim. No, he's not. He's an American that wants to protect the country, and that's the only way he knows how to do it. And when he speaks about things like this, the American public has had enough. They've had enough, and they want to change. And you know, it's interesting. If you categorize me, I'm really an independent, but I've been a Republican conservative for 30, 40 years. The fact of the matter is we've had a Republican Congress, a Republican Senate. Over 60% of the governorships in this country are Republican, and nothing's really changed. So he's had enough. That's why he's running for office. I believe he's running for his office. Listen, he's got everything he needs as far as finance is concerned. I know the type of lifestyle he lives. He works 24/7. There is no such thing as vacations. He goes to his properties, he plays some golf, but he's always working on the next deal. It's the way he is. Dedicated man. Incredible family man. You can tell by his children. You want to judge a man, look at their children. Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, all of his children, outstanding citizens. When he says no drinking, no drugs, no tattoos, that's Donald Trump. So, I mean, I think that the American public has had enough. As I said, the Congress has an 11% approval rating, and Donald Trump says we're going to have to make a change. We have to start winning again. So I think that Americans, I think what's going on right now, I said this before the New Hampshire primary, there's a revolution going on right now. There's a revolution. I spoke with someone this morning, he said, you know, there were people out in Tennessee, 1,200 people were out early, a day early before Super Tuesday. And over 90% when they were polled said they're going to vote for Donald Trump. This is pervasive in every state. People have had enough. They believe that he's going to make a difference. He's not going to take any garbage from anyone. And they believe that he's going to change what's going on in Washington. And he is the true outsider. So that's what resonates with the American public. Next question.
Hi, Mike Damassi, independent business owner with Wealth Generators. As an independent business owner, Donald Trump has made a great deal of promises without a lot of detail. How do you think he'll handle the details as President of the United States?
Okay, that's another good question. I said to you before, I made a statement, when you listen to Donald Trump, listen to the macro, not the micro. I believe, I've been around Donald Trump in business deals, and I know how he handles the micro. When Donald Trump says it's going to be great, what he means is, I'll give you an example. If you look at the Woolman rink in New York City could not get the ice rink finished. They were a couple of years past due, over budget, and Donald Trump said to the mayor, let me take care of it, I'll handle it. He brought it in under budget, in less time than he promised. He under-promised and over-delivered. That's what he'll do. That is the micro of the macro. That's Donald Trump. So was the Woolman rink, listen, can Donald Trump sit there with a map and talk about every Arab nation, where they are, and who the Sunnis are, who the Shia? I don't think so. Who cares? He will surround himself with people who are expert in that field. He will sit and listen. He will bring in, whether it's a political, geopolitical expert, and has to make a decision, do we belong there? And I will tell you this, because I met Donald Trump in 2007. Donald Trump was, from the beginning, in the early 2000s, because he said it to me several times, he was absolutely against our involvement in Iraq. Absolutely against it, okay? But Donald Trump is the type of guy that if the majority put us in Iraq and we were there, that he would not abandon what we accomplished in that long period of time. Listen, he was against the war. He believed it was going to destabilize that whole region, and it did. And the fact of the matter is, this country is in serious debt, and now the numbers being thrown out are $2 to $5 trillion that was spent in that between Afghanistan and Iraq. And we're talking about health care. I've said this many times, $2 to $5 trillion. Every American, whether they need an MRI, they need any type of health care, a CAT scan, surgery, or generalized wellness care, would not have to pay for their health care for 30 years with that type of budget. Our roads, our bridges would have been repaired with that type of budget. And we blew that going into a place we didn't belong, and we destabilized an area now that's causing us more problems and putting us into more debt. So that's why I believe that when it comes to making a decision, whether it's a geopolitical decision, he will surround himself with experts, and they'll sit down and they'll say, okay, Donald, this is what I believe. Okay, just like when I dealt with Donald Trump, he'd say to me, tell me what you think. I negotiated, we were involved in a $65 million turnaround for a golf course developed property. And I had many, many conversations with Donald Trump. And my advice was important to him. He said I was one of the best, if not the best negotiators he ever sat down at the table with when we went and negotiated that deal. And I will say this to you. I had to deal with banks, I had to deal with members, I had to deal with lawsuits, and I had to deal with the Trump organization. Donald Trump, on every segment of that negotiation, that deal, kept his word to me. So I had heard all these other stories about dealing with him, and he kept his word. And when he felt strongly about something, he said, that's it, either work it out or I'm done. And we had shouting matches, sitting there eating Wolfgang's filet mignon in his office late at night, shouting matches where we thought I'd never speak to him again. And I'm riding down the turnpike 20 minutes later on my way back home. He calls me up and said, who loves you? And get back to talking again. He's a tough guy, but I think he's a genuine person, and he's also a very compassionate person. You know, when he says to people, we can't leave people in the streets to die, I think he means that, genuinely. I think he means when it comes to health care that we should take care of our own. And I think he believes that wasting all this money, invading other countries that don't have weapons of mass destruction, I think he believes what he says. So, in answer to your question, when it comes to any decision, you know, once the geopolitical opinion is we have to go to war, you see how Donald Trump quotes MacArthur and Patton? He quotes our best generals. Why? Because he believes that if someone says we have to go to war, then America is going to win the war. He says we don't win anymore, he means that. So if someone makes a decision we are going to go to war with another country, believe me when I tell you, he will scorch the earth and end it right away, because he doesn't want to see those young men injured. I believe that sincerely. So he doesn't want to go to war. He doesn't want to invade another country. If he believes it's the only option, he'll win the war. And that's with a business deal, that's with a conflict, that's with anything. He'll do whatever he has to do, just like he's doing this election right now, he's going to win. Next question.
Hi, Joe. Welcome back. Tony Lotito from AlphaQuest. Joe, talking about winning, he's about to enter the biggest battle of his life with the Clinton machine and the Democratic Party, and a hugely experienced professional politician. How do you think he'll do head-to-head against Hillary Clinton?
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, first I was speaking about this Republican nomination. When it comes to the general election, I think, you know, if you talked about a horse in a race, they're frothing at the bit to get into the race. Donald Trump's already ready for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton has no idea when you unleash the horror, when Donald Trump gets the nomination and they go head-to-head. People and pundits have been saying, and people have said to me in the last 2 weeks, that this will probably be one of the closest elections, just like 2000 could be decided in the courts. It's my personal opinion. I don't even know if Hillary Clinton is going to last without getting indicted. I believe what she did was wrong, and she shouldn't be a candidate. That's my personal opinion. I believe if she ran against Hillary Clinton, that Donald Trump would, I think there'd be a revolution in every state, and Donald Trump, just like in every one of these primaries, there's been a record turnout. These are not just Republicans, these are independents. It's also my personal opinion, the reason Bernie Sanders' message resonates is because he is against the establishment. He has pointed out many things that we can all agree with, about Wall Street never went to jail, about the subprime mess cost the taxpayers trillions of dollars, and it was unfair. That's true. As far as his socialistic type, we are a socialist country in many ways. We have Medicare, we have Medicaid, we have Social Security. Okay, but there's something about capitalism that Trump and I and many other people believe in that resonates, and that Bernie Sanders, we just can't agree upon his tax, the way he would tax the American public and some of his other views. But the fact of the matter is, there is a movement against the establishment. I personally believe that at least half of the people that are supporting Bernie Sanders now are not going to go to Clinton, they're going to go to Trump. I believe that when it comes to, listen, Trump is running against candidates right now in their home state. He's close in Texas, he's ahead in Ohio, he's ahead in Florida. These are senators and governors, sitting senators and governors in their home state, and he's ahead. That's because of the revolution that I'm talking about. So head to head, it's my opinion, Trump wins 40+ states as the next president of the United States. Next question.
Yes, Dr. Louro, William Kossoff again with SAFE. Recently, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz the past few weeks have been attacking Donald Trump differently than they did before, especially the attacks of Marco Rubio this last week. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Maybe if they started that 2 months ago, they'd have been a little bit better off. It's too little, too late. Yeah, they're getting down and dirty. They're going after Trump. Trump went after them. You know, Trump is more of a reactive guy. If you go back to the beginning of this campaign, Trump's a counterpuncher. You jab him, he knocks you out. So that's been the case so far. You know, I have never seen so much talent in my lifetime on one ticket as what the Republicans have brought to bear. There's some great people there. You know, George Bush, Jeb Bush, you know, long-term political family. He's the third Bush. He had a lot going against him. His ideas, his job as the governor, his performance as governor of Florida he was the greatest governor in Florida's history. His job was incredible. John Kasich, he's a balanced budget committee, worked with Reagan, balanced our budget, and then he goes to Ohio with a deficit. Now there's a surplus. He adds 400,000 jobs. You know, Ted Cruz, probably the greatest debater I've ever seen. You know, a true conservative. Marco Rubio, he may be president someday. He's talented, he's young. Kennedy was president at 43. What is Marco, 44 years old? But attacking Trump now, at the last moment before Super Tuesday, I think it's a little beneath all of them, because, you know, they should have done this. If they're gonna go after Donald Trump and his integrity, they should have done that 3 months ago. They didn't. You know, Trump was the only one that had the guts when they got in the first debate, and the question was, who would not pledge to run as an independent? And Donald Trump raised his hand. And the reason he raised his hand, everybody said that's political suicide, it's over, he's not going to support the Republican candidate. That's not why he raised his hand. He raised his hand because he knew, as an outsider, the Republican establishment did not want him, and they would do anything to get rid of him. And that's not letting the people's voices be heard. That's allowing the establishment that has screwed things up here for long enough to determine who the candidate is. So he qualified it. He said, if you treat me fairly, I give you my word, I will not run as an independent, and I will support the candidate, the Republican candidate. He's also said, any fishy things go on, he wins Super Tuesday, he's got the majority of delegate lead, he goes into the final, I can't even think of the word right now, not the quorum, but when he goes into the convention, thank you. When Donald Trump goes to the convention and he's got the lead or has enough delegates to win, and there's some kind of issue that takes place, it's not going to happen. I think listen, so many people are so sick and tired of manipulation and the things that go on, they're not going to allow that to happen. This revolution that's taking place to put him in office, and that's what Donald Trump has tapped. People are disgusted. People, you know, they say the unemployment rate is at 4 or 5%. It's 3 times that amount. These are people that have looked for jobs and now they're out of that system. They could not find a job. These are people working part-time. I mean, this is all a false economy. The Fed printing money and the stock market going up in value. This is all false economy. And Donald Trump has pointed that out, and so have many other people. So I believe what he did when he raised his hand was righteous, because he said, that's it. You treat me fairly now, I'll run. I will not run against the opponent, and I'll support them. So if he wins the delegates at the convention, he's the nominee. And the Republican higher-ups and hierarchy have got to say, you know what, we don't agree with some of the things he do, I'm going to give him some advice, then fine, and you work with him, and you help him along, but we support him as the candidate.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hello, Dr. Louro. My name is Todd Parker. I'm an independent insurance agent, And my question is, how do you think Donald Trump's tax plan is going to help the small business owner?
Okay, so what has Donald Trump done? People have said he's going to put $1 trillion in debt. I disagree. Donald Trump's first thing is jobs, not trade, fair trade rules. And Donald Trump has said from the beginning that I'm going to reduce taxes on capital gains. I'm going to reduce income taxes on the middle class. I'm going to help stimulate the economy, get the GDP up to 4 to 7 to 8, 9% by stimulating the economy. It's all about jobs, stimulating the economy, and by stimulating the economy, our debt will go down. We'll pay off our debt. Donald Trump wants the entrepreneur and the businessman not to have all these regulations. Donald Trump wants all that money repatriated that's sitting outside the United States. Donald Trump has made a plan right now to get America back. And first of all, let's go look at it. What did Ronald Reagan do? Ronald Reagan changed the perception of the country. Ronald Reagan transcended politics. He made Americans feel good about being American again. Ronald Reagan, when we were sitting in 1979, our hostages were sitting there for 350 or 400 days, we didn't feel too good. You go to a ball game, people weren't standing up during the national anthem. When Ronald Reagan's president, people put their hands on their hearts and they became proud of being American again. And when Trump says that, it's heartfelt. I want to stimulate the economy. I want to reduce taxes. I want to stimulate and grow the middle class, not shrink the middle class. Okay? And you know, Ronald Reagan, we'll talk about this later on, but Ronald Reagan created the Reagan Revolution, and I believe what's going on right now is very similar and akin to what happened in 1980. Next question.
Nicole Hagan again. As a female, I'm a little bit concerned with the way that Trump handled conflict with Megyn Kelly, and further, the way that he's handled commentary in regards to Hispanics and immigration. Why do you feel as though this is not indicative of bias?
Okay, so the question is about the way Donald Trump handled Megyn Kelly or any other female, and the way Donald Trump has handled the Hispanic question. This is not a Hispanic question when it comes to building a wall. Mexico just happens to be there. The Canadians are not running over our border and bringing in drugs. It's coming from Mexico. So that's why Donald Trump is focused on, you know, it's a Freudian slip. How many times I said, when I say Donald Trump, I say Ronald Reagan, because the things that Ronald Reagan started out, that revolution that took place in 1980. What Donald Trump is talking about is not anti-Mexico, is not anti-Hispanic. I've been to Donald Trump on 10 of his properties. I've been around, he's got Hispanics, and as far as his hierarchy and his executive vice presidents and vice president of his company, he's got females everywhere. So Donald Trump doesn't care if you're male, female, Hispanic, white, black. You're going to be judged on your character, and you're going to be judged on your performance. And he has given more females opportunity, and he's thousands and thousands of Hispanics he's hired in all his properties. So there is no bias towards females. He's not anti-feminist. He's just not going to take any crap from a female. He's not going to, because she's a female, give her some deference. Just not the way he is. He's not politically correct. He doesn't have time for that. So the bottom line is, you know, Megyn Kelly asked, she had a right to ask questions. He felt like he picked on him right away, asked him a very difficult question that the other candidates wouldn't have gotten. He felt uncomfortable and he lashed back. Not because she was female, because he lashed back because that's what he does. And sometimes maybe he goes overboard. That's just the way he is. You see what you're going to get. And believe me, when he has to get involved with political leaders from other countries or anyone else, he's not going to take any crap from any one of them either. I believe that that's his fairness position. It doesn't matter. So people took that the wrong way. It's not politically correct to attack a female, and maybe he went overboard on Carly Fiorina, and he went overboard a little bit on Megyn Kelly. It's just the way he is. But it's not because he's an anti-feminist, or not because he's anti-Hispanic, is he talking about the border. It's because that's where the problem is. That's where the problem is. You know, I really believe, I really believe that when people, you know, if you get to know him, he's a really fair individual. He just doesn't like to lose. Next question.
Hi, Joe Hagan again, Doc. You mentioned repatriating trillions of dollars overseas. So we deal in the part of the financial industry that deals with a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly in Forex. How do you see Mr. Trump actually bringing in country, all of those trillions of dollars that has gone overseas?
Okay, that's a great question. And this is a question that Donald Trump has addressed several times on the campaign trail. Everybody else stutters when they ask the question. He's very direct about this. He said he thinks there's up to $5 trillion, expatriated, taken away from this country, and he wants it back. What does he do that? He sits down, he talks to the people, he gets some of his friends in finance, and he negotiates with them and says, listen, just like he said last week, I'm not buying any more Oreos because Nabisco is going to Mexico. If Donald Trump had an inkling as president that Nabisco is going to Mexico, he'd sit down with their hierarchy, bring them into the White House, and he'd tell them, listen, there's got to be a reason why we want you to stay in this country. We want you to give American jobs. Whatever had to be worked out, he would do anything he possibly could to make that happen. As far as the money overseas, if he said to them, we're not going to tax you 30%, 35%, 20%, we're going to have a 10% tax, bring that money in, and he'd talk to them in a patriotic fashion. He'd say, listen, our country needs this. When Apple makes 90% of their income outside the country, he doesn't like that. He believes it's wrong. Donald Trump does everything in this country. Yeah, he might do some projects overseas, but the majority of what he does, and the Trump organization, is located in New York. And I believe that he will take that $5 trillion and work one by one with all these big corporations, sit them down. Number one, he'll make policies that want them to come back. And number two, when there's some difficulty, he'll negotiate, whether it be tax credits or whatever he uses. If he said to me, hey, Dr. Louro, I want you to help me with, I would be glad. He says he wants to bring in Carl Icahn to negotiate some of his business deals. Why? Because Carl Icahn is an icon, no pun intended. He's a business genius. He's in his 80s. He knows exactly what to do. He'll bring in Icahn, and Icahn will give him information. He'll bring in other people that he has respect for, and they'll give him information on how he should go forward to bring this money back in. And they'll set up tax rules. They'll make it comfortable for these countries to relocate back to the United States. I believe that's what he'll do. He's mentioned it several times. It's important to him, and that's a great source of revenue for the government. Next question.
Tony Lotito again from AlphaQuest. In deference to time, I think this is the last question. You talked earlier about the field of candidates in the Republican Party, some really great politicians and people, from Ted Cruz to Kasich to Jeb Bush. As he assembles now his cabinet, who do you think he's going to pick for vice president?
That's a great question. I thought about this a lot. So Donald Trump never asked me, but if he called me up and said, what do you think? I'd say, you got a great deal of talent right around you. I think they could make friends. I think sometimes, Donald Trump's a tough guy. You cross him and he doesn't forget it. And I know he doesn't like what's going on right now with Cruz and especially Rubio. But listen, John Kasich, my opinion, Ohio's important in the election, in the national election. John Kasich has balanced the budget for our government. He balanced the budget in Ohio. He's got an incredible track record. He worked in the private sector, and he's worked as a politician. So, my opinion, a guy like John Kasich, I know John Kasich has said that he doesn't want to be a vice president, but that's the type of guy Donald Trump is. He'd persuade him. He'd sit him down and say, listen, for the good of the country, we need you, and he would let him help him with the budget. Listen, Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, he's called Ted Cruz a liar. They say all's fair in love and war. I don't know if this relationship can be repaired. There's a perfect example of someone with a conservative background, probably the best, one of the best. Most of the Supreme Court justices said there was no better clerk than Ted Cruz. What better choice for a Supreme Court justice? Because he has a like mind as Judge Scalia. He has incredible constitutional knowledge. So these are people like this. I mean, if I was asked the question, what do I think? It's like when you promote people from within your own company. These people were in a war in a trench, and they ran against each other. You have incredible talent, and I think you should tap it. Now, he may choose someone else. But just looking at the candidates right there, if Marco Rubio or Cruz were vice presidents, I think they would do an outstanding job. I think if they repaired their relationship, they're talented people. And I said before, John Kasich is proven when it comes to the budget, and we need help with the budget. Hopefully, he would sit down with John Kasich and try to persuade him. It would also help him with Ohio. Whatever he decides, I know it'll be thoughtful. I know they'll take their time, but there's a lot of talent out there. So because I said that, I made that statement, I believe that. And if it was my opinion, and if I was asked my opinion, that's what I would say. So I appreciate everyone coming today. I did agree to answer questions about Donald Trump. I consider Donald Trump a friend. I respect him, and I really, truly believe what I said. He's going to win the Republican nomination, and he's going to be the next president of the United States. Thanks very much.